Hi, Kevin. What would you like to discuss today?
Hey guys,
Hey,
I just have a
so,
question, and based on the answer, would pretty much let me know if I really disagree with you guys or not. It's a genuine question. And
okay.
the one other thing I want to get to really quick after that, um, I feel like this might be spoken about before, but I'm kind of new to the show, so if it has, just stop me while I'm ahead. If we're creating a scenario to where we're all on the phone right now, and let's just say God of the Bible shows up right in front of us, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I'm the guy, the one that did everything. I'm me. I'm real. Follow me or whatever," and he
Mhm.
just disappears. I'm not going to ask you the question of, oh, what do you believe in? My question is, um, how could I, Phil or you, demonstrate that he's the God that he says he is? Like, how do I know that's not Lord Voldemort or,
I don't really
anybody?
think you can.
Couldn't I ask
Yeah,
you a question?
How do you know that you're not
I
having
could
some
ask that
sort of
question.
hallucinatory experience too, right? Like, so yeah, you could totally ask that question. Like, if somebody claiming to be a god appeared in front of me, I would have more questions before I just went, oh, okay, well then I guess God's real, and also it's the Christian God, and that experience was
Right.
100% genuine, palpable. Like, I would
And
have more questions and no answers at that point in time.
and honestly, I think Kevin, I like where you're going with this. I think it's up to God to know what would work for you.
Yeah.
And so you have the question backward, not what would it take for me to know or for me to accept that it's God. The God that I normally hear of, at least from the Christian perspective of all knowing and all powerful, knowing the past, future, and present, and omnipresent, he already knows what it would take to make me a God believing Christian, and he hasn't chosen to do that. So
I,
the ball's
I
in his
follow that.
court.
I follow that.
Yeah.
I follow that. I know you guys are short on time, so I just want to get to that second thing really quick. And it kind
Sure.
of
Talk to us.
connects to, and,
Go
and,
ahead.
and if you disagree, then let me know. But when I was 17, I went and saw a psychic on my own, and I was extremely skeptic. I'm actually skeptic about a lot of things. I am a theist, but I am still very skeptic. I walk into situations like I pretty much need to be convinced before I just believe anything. And
Okay.
my aunt would always tell me how legitimate they were, but when I asked her, she said, "What do you want to know?" I said, "Well, you tell me. You're supposed to know things that I don't know."
Yeah.
I
And
love it.
Yeah. What do I
and
want to know?
well, what made it uncomfortable was she said things that were true in my past way too specific. And when I say specific, I'm not talking about, oh, you like this woman. She named names,
Hmm.
places, and I've never met this woman before. I've never seen her. I've never talked to her. I purposely went to, when I was in another state, I made sure just that it couldn't possibly be
Yeah.
someone in my family that
Did
I've
you give your name to the? Did you
and
give your name for the appointment when you made the
no,
appointment? Did you give your
no,
name? You
no,
Yeah.
didn't give your
I
name
didn't.
because
Nope.
Kevin, I
sometimes
think
they look you up on social media.
Kevin, I think the thing that
Well,
that you might benefit most from, at least from the psychic perspective, is do a little Google search on the phrase "remembering the hits and forgetting the misses,"
True. Yeah.
because one of the tactics for a psychic, if they're doing what's called a cold read, where they truly know nothing about you, keep it in mind there is no such thing as a cold read if you're in person, because they can see you and they can figure out things about you just by how you look.
Mm.
But cold read is a process of throwing out things that have high probability of hitting. Like I could say, if I'm a psychic, I'm seeing something about the number 3. Does that mean no? I'm an only kid. Did you have parents? Yeah, I got a mom and a dad. Okay, well that's what the 3 is about. Because and if it's not the mom and the dad, if you have 2 siblings, well, there's the 3. If you have 1 sibling and a dog that you love, there's the 3. So they can post hoc rationalize this random number that they threw out, which is not actually random. They often start with 3 because they know they can always build something with 3. If they said 7, well, that's a lot harder. So, or you start off with something like, I'm seeing a name of a person and it starts with a D and an M. They aren't picking random letters. They're picking some of the very most popular letters. And if you pick, A, B, C, D, or M, S, T, R, letters like that, the odds are like 95% that you're going to have someone within the 5 or 6 most closest people to you that have one of those letters in their first or last name. So it seems like, oh my God, you got something right away. Plus, if you're in person, they can look at you, and like my hands are baby soft. So I don't work for a living. Someone who studies humans will know instantly that I don't do any fucking work. And they can look at you and make some educated guesses. They know your age, they know maybe your race, or maybe they might be able to identify your gender if they're going with a binary thought process. They can see what you drove up in a Harley Davidson or a Toyota Prius and make some assumptions about what your lifestyle is.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they can have without even doing research.
I think so. If you can pick this apart, and like I said, I'm not being facetious. I'm being literal. If I could take the literal that she said, because everything you said was I agree with, because it was kind of catch-22. I get it. I walked in and I said, "Well, you tell me." And she looked at me for a couple of seconds and she was like, "That girl, Natalia, don't worry, you'll see her again." And I was like, "Why do you?" I'm in my teenage years, and all my life I've been fantasizing about my first crush. How does she know her name?
Yeah, Kevin, if you want to do an experiment,
back out of the country,
go to another psychic and get permission to record the entire event, and then look back and see how they may have mentioned 4 or 5 names that afterwards you forgot, because Natalia, man, that lit your brain up like a freaking 4th of July, and you forgot about the other names that they mentioned. And it's not that you're trying to.
About one thing.
What's that? That you're going to call the show?
She was wrong about one thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure she was wrong about a lot of things, but go ahead, tell me.
No, I wasn't going to interrupt you. I was just saying you're correct. She was right about, a couple of things, but there was one thing that I do very well remember she was dead wrong about.
Yeah. So
I'm following you, what you're saying.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I used to do cold readings to show people how psychics do it. The problem I did it 3 times, and it was convincing enough that it disturbed the person to the point where they thought maybe I had some skill, when my whole point was to show them that I didn't have a skill. And so it backfired. It's an amazing process. I had a person that cut my hair, and I made some assumptions, and next thing I know, I'm talking about her dear friend, Amy. And I said something like this was one of the phrases that I used. Okay, we're talking about Amy now, because I didn't get the name Amy. She provided it to me, but later she swore that I said Amy. I never did until she said it. And I said something like this. I'm getting something about Amy's car. And she says, "Oh my God, she just bought a car." I didn't say that she bought a car. I didn't say that she sold a car. I didn't even say she has a car. I said, I see something about a car. And if she had said, well, she's trying to buy a car, that would fit. Yeah, if she got a new car, if she just sold a car, anything would fit. And what is the percentage of adult population in the United States of America that have or want or need a car? Almost everybody. So it's a moronic thing for me to say. And then I said to her, and she said she has a car. And I said, is it kind of a cheap, crappy car? And she's like, "Oh my God. How would you know that?" Well, what I did is I associated my hairstylist, who has a crappy, shitty car, and assumed that her friend would likely be in the same socioeconomic status as her. So if my stylist has a shitty car that I happen to know about, so I'm not even doing a cold rating here. It's a warm, if not a hot rating. I know she has a shitty car. There's a good chance that someone of her age and socioeconomic status also has a shitty car. But she saw it as like, "Oh my God, you know about her car." No, I made shit up.
Just a question, Phil. Is it possible that if you're way too specific, that it just could bring up questions? Like there's things.
No, they just blow past it. They blow past it. Like if they're too specific, they go, "Oh no, that wasn't it. That's not. It was coming to me differently. I actually meant this." And you don't. Our memories aren't that great. Yeah. We like to think that they're phenomenal, but they're not that great. And we remember things that pertain to us a lot more than things that are erroneous.
With the car, if the answer I got back was she doesn't own a car, she drives a motorcycle. I don't know anything about a car. Well, the spirits are telling me she wants to buy a car, and go ask her. And then she goes and asks her friend and says, you ever thought about buying a car? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious.
Those are pretty obvious, though.
They're obvious to you and me in the story that I'm telling. But when that happens to someone, especially not necessarily you, but someone who's predisposed to believe, because when I went through this cold read, warm read with my stylist, after it was over, I stopped to explain to her what I had done and how it worked, with the expectation that I was going to convince her that it was just kind of a psychological mental game. And her response finally was, okay, I understand you don't want people to know that you have the skill. And I was like, no, that. And so after having that happen a couple of times, but I could also see that if I didn't know how cold reading worked and I had said things and she keeps reaffirming all the positive things that I hit, I could see how I could convince myself, if I didn't know how it worked, that I had something. I also remember a time, I don't remember where we were on vacation somewhere, and we walked by a little storefront that does psychic readings and palm reading and all that stuff. And there's a lady standing outside the front door smoking. And as I walk by her, she says, she's going to call you. It's going to be okay. And because I knew what she was doing, I just started laughing hysterically. I thought it was the funny, but she can stand there and say, you know, when someone else walks by, they really do love you. They're going to be like, oh, you know, I was having problems with somebody in my family. Yeah.
I know you guys are out of time, and I just, for everybody listening and you guys, before I see crazy, the last thing I wanted to say was, as a skeptic, for me, I was just taken aback that, you know, not only did she name a specific name, she also made it very clear that this person was not around and that I would see her again. And the reason it immediately snatched me is because I'm a teenager. This is somebody I had met in 4th grade and moved out of the country, and I never heard from. And she should not know that she was out of the country, and she should know her name. And she should know that was been on my heart.
She didn't say she was out of the country, though. All she said was name, you'll see them again. Anybody who wasn't currently in the room with you that had a name that would have fit that description. So she just managed to find a name of someone you know, and say you'll see them again.
A lot of names.
Well, I mean, maybe like you may have given her a cue you don't know about also, or maybe she just got lucky. But like the saying you'll see her again is just
that's
lucky for her that there was an emotional connection to that, and now you remember that.
If they throw out a name that they think might be a name of somebody in your sphere of influence, I mean, you probably have 50 to 100 people who you know that know you, and you know their names. So that now they have a really good chance of getting a correct name. They might have been able to say Larry and it wouldn't have been Natalia, but you'd be like, oh, I know a Larry also. Well, it didn't hit. It's just a different.
I'm so sorry. We do have to wrap up though, because we're already over and we have another call in the queue. So thank you for calling. It was nice to chat to you, Kevin. We're going to try to take one more call though. So have a good rest of your day. Bye.